Good evening. My name is Angela Davis. We want our collective struggles to be acknowledged in the historical record. Our collective history is central to our identities. I am the child of an activist mother, Sally Bell Davis. She was a national officer and leading organizer of the Southern Negro Youth Congress. Like other African American parents of that day, she was dedicated to creating a better world for her children and their peers. In the 1940s and the 1950s, the U.S. South was a dangerous place, a place where lynchings and other forms of racist violence were used to terrorize Black people who simply wanted equality and freedom. The mid-20th century Black freedom movement demonstrated that Black people were committed to continuing the struggles that had led to the abolition of slavery in the 19th century. Here we are in the 21st century attempting to carry out the legacies of these monumental movements and reflecting on those without whose contributions we would not be at the present historical conjuncture. No one, including those who made this present moment possible, could have predicted that a radical transformation of public consciousness during a dangerous pandemic in the year 2020 would lead to the recognition of the structural and systemic foundations of racism. Yet 2020 has emerged on the historical continuum that connects us with centuries-old struggles. The HistoryMakers is an extraordinary project reflecting 20 years of documenting this historical continuum. Under the leadership of its founder, Juliana Richardson, HistoryMakers has encouraged all of us to try to find repositories for our papers. In fact, this is the theme of the 20th convening, preserving 20th century collections with 21st century solutions. As a result of Juliana's urging, I placed my own papers in Harvard Radcliffe's Schlesinger Library, where they are alongside the collections of other activist women. So I would like to publicly thank Juliana for prodding me on. Juliana Richardson's mission is to further stem the loss of our history by finding the resources to digitize the collections of those whose oral histories are in the HistoryMakers archive. We should definitely support her in this undertaking.
The thing that always concerned me about the civil rights movement here in Lexington.
Audrey Grievous was a leader in Lexington's civil rights movement, known for organizing downtown lunch counter sit-ins, fighting segregation.
Every Sunday morning, my husband and I had to get out there and clean up some of the worst filth that you can imagine that had been thrown in my yard.
Her memories are a living history lesson on their way into a national video archive of African American history through the HistoryMakers project.
It's primary source history, which is a really amazing thing.
HistoryMakers has done 400 interviews in the last 3 years, traveling all over the country.
We've been to Denver, Wichita, Philadelphia, Detroit, Grand Forks, Aberdeen.
Today's stop, Lexington, just one thread in the rich tapestry of African American history.
Lexington is just as important as Montgomery or any place else in the United States in terms of civil rights. People we've interviewed here in Lexington have really been, pioneers.
We say that this is America's missing stories, that American history really won't be complete without this information. Our goal is really to create a digital archive that is totally searchable by image and text, and we're actually experimenting with Carnegie Mellon. They've developed some technology working with CNN over the last 8 years. So the goal is that, whether you go to the Schomburg Library in New York or DuSable Museum here or the Library of Congress, that people will be able to go and access this collection in its entirety. It's going to take us, 5 to 10 years really to make that collection accessible and, in that manner. The other thing is that we have a very strong educational initiative. This year, as part of our event, we had a day called Meet the HistoryMakers, a Day of Education, and we're hoping actually to roll out what we call the HistoryMakers Education Institute using Chicago Public Schools as a pilot program to really bring this history to life. So the program begins and ends on time. I only see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your responsibilities are twofold, just to make sure people get in, make sure that the doors are closed.
I'm getting ready to go for 2.
You're gonna, okay.
Hi, are you here for registration? This is the second floor.
Our goal really is to do 5,000 interviews over the next 5 years.
And I want you to tell us how you're going to do that, Juliana.
Okay.
Just right here for one moment. Juliana Richardson, a lawyer who's come up with an idea that is probably more positive than most attorneys come up with. And I can say that.
What the young lady has done is to sort of create something has been a need for so many years, and she's decided to do it on audio video as opposed to the written word, which is really unique.
This is the first time that HistoryMakers has had a day of education, and I think this is just fantastic.
This is an extremely important day from the standpoint of education.
We had an interesting group of people. We had a former state senator of Wichita, Kansas, and the mayor of Milledgeville, Georgia.
We'll talk about the history of African Americans coming into the administration of major urban centers in public education and the roles they played early on and are playing today.
I see I'm a professional dancer, so I did a few steps for them and I got their attention, and then I told them, I said, I want to take y'all on a little journey with me. I said, how many of you want to go? All of them raised up their hands.
To be able to have an opportunity to have an audience with these young folks is just a tremendous experience for me, and I think it's a great thing that the HistoryMakers are doing, because it really adds inspiration in the hearts and minds of young people, and I like that.
To be in the presence of James Montgomery, Mayor Washington's legal counsel, first black mayor of the city of Chicago. I just can't wait to get back to the classroom to share some of the things that we've gotten from this conference. It's great. It's really great.
And I think the HistoryMakers are going to make the young people today really try to go out and make history so they can be a part of the HistoryMakers.
What we're doing here, we're showing the young people what we have done and showing them how we did it so that they can do likewise and have a successful career.
Well, all right, okay, you won. You've made it #1. VON sounds so good, just like a swinger should. WVON 1450.
I can cover up my fears in the name of love, or play it safe. For a while that was easy, and if living for myself is what I'm guilty of, go on and sentence me, I'll still be free. It's my turn to see what I can see. I hope you'll understand. This time is just for me right now. It's my turn with no apologies. I've given up the truth to those I try to please right now. My turn, yeah, my turn.
What is Africa to me? Copper sun or scarlet sea? Jungle star or jungle track? Strong bronze men or regal black? Woman from whose loins I sprang when the birds of Eden sang. One 3 centuries removed from the scenes his father's love, spicy groove, cinnamon tree. What is Africa to me?
I sat for my History Maker interview 3 times, in 2003, 2004, and 2015. I was moved to contribute this oral history after having been invited to interview Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee, who wholeheartedly embrace the vision of the History Makers. So I want to take you back to that moment in 2002 when I shared the stage with these cultural icons and activist legends. The massive Black Lives Matter demonstrations we have witnessed over the last months reflect their shining legacies. Ossie and Ruby presente.
Wow. I said push.
Every man has in the front door. They're not supposed to come in the front door. Come on.
Hello, you two. How are you?
Take a ride inside on a ship that is
Well, they were. Also have not seen one person on your staff.
Okay.
Okay.
But one cannot say that racism has been securely tucked away in the dustbin of history. Okay, one more. Wonderful.
Hi, my name is Hannah Richardson Simmons. Welcome to the History Makers.
Please, audience, stand and help me in giving this wonderful person a warm welcome, this teacher, author, and political activist, Angela Davis. Thank you. Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee have literally shaped the world we inhabit today. They have made it a better place for all of us. Through their art and through their activism, they have never let us forget that we all have a deep moral responsibility to continue to insist on freedom for every person on this earth. Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee.
What is relevant about this? What is unspoken by the subjugate? What is never said to the master? However, having to deal with this reality was a very remote possibility. It was in no one's mind. When I was growing up, I was taught in American history books that Africa had no history, and neither did I. That I was a savage, about whom the less said, the better, who had been saved by Europe and brought to America. And of course, I believed it. I didn't have much choice. Those are the only books there were. Everyone else seemed to agree. If you walk out of Harlem, ride out of Harlem, downtown, the world agrees. What you see is much bigger, cleaner, whiter, richer, safer. Where you are, they collect the garbage. People obviously pay their life insurance. The children live happy. Say, you're not. And you go back home. What is unspoken is a terrible thing. What is unspoken is a terrible thing. What is unspoken is a terrible thing.
Bells, sirens swell, morphing into church bells, signaling another unjustifiable death. You took my love away from me.
wreckage. And if that happens, it's a very grave moment for the West. It was a terrible thing.
Loudly.
It was a terrible thing.
Languishing ladies sing loudly.
It was a terrible thing.
Church bells ring loudly.
To surrender to the notion that 1/9 of its population.
Sirens swell, morphing into church bells, signaling another unjustifiable death. Bells.
It was a terrible thing for an entire people to surrender to the notion that 1/9 of its population is beneath them. And until that moment, until the moment comes, when we, the American people, are able to accept the fact that I have to accept, for example, that my ancestors are both white and black, that on that continent we are trying to forge a new identity for which we need each other, and that I am not a ward of America. I am not an object of missionary charity. I am one of the people who built the country.